The Slash Plus arrived earlier this year as the biggest travel e-bike that Trek has ever produced. Building on the success of the lightweight Fuel EXe, the Slash Plus features the same compact TQ motor, but pumps it up with a new larger 580 watt-hour battery, while also borrowing the distinctive high pivot suspension design from the regular Slash. The result is an intriguing e-bike that combines big travel with a small motor. So what's it like to ride, and how does it compare to its siblings? Well, I've been testing the Slash Plus over the past couple of months, and in this video review we'll be diving into what it does well, what it struggles with, and who exactly it's for. Just like the non-motorized version, the Trek Slash Plus features 170mm of travel front and rear. The full carbon frame is built specifically around a mullet setup, with the exception being the small size, which features 27.5-inch wheels front and rear. The plus part of the name refers to the electric assistance, which in this case is provided by the German-manufactured TQ HPR50 motor. This tiny drive unit is easily one of the most natural-feeling motors out there, and in our experience, it's also the quietest too. If you're not familiar with it, check out our separate TQ motor review for everything you need to know. The compact motor also frees up the necessary real estate for the high-pivot suspension platform, which is claimed to feature identical kinematics to the regular Slash. Typically, e-bikes require different shock orientations and linkages to fit around bulky motors and batteries, but that's not the case here. Indeed, the Slash Plus manages to hide the E-part quite well, incorporating a discrete display in the frame's top tube and a 2-button controller next to the left-hand grip. The slim 580 watt-hour battery is bolted within the down tube, though it can be easily removed for separate charging, and you can even ride without it. More on that in a bit. As with the suspension kinematics, geometry on the Trek Slash Plus is largely identical to the regular Slash. The biggest difference is that the Slash Plus only comes in 4 frame sizes. Otherwise, it gets the same 63.4-degree head angle with the neutral headset cups fitted. You can purchase offset cups, which would allow you to slacken or steepen the head angle by a full degree. Our medium-sized test bike comes with a 449mm reach and a 77.5-degree effective seat tube angle. The rear center length is scaled throughout the size range, starting at 435mm and going up to 445mm. You'll also spot a flip chip at the lower shock mount. Rather than adjusting the geometry, however, this provides you with linear and progressive leverage rate settings, with the latter being particularly well suited to a coil shock. The frame is also rated for up to 190mm travel fork for those who want the full bike park setup. There are currently just 2 models in the Trek Slash Plus lineup, and prices start at $11,500 Australian dollars. Our test bike is the top-end Slash Plus 9.9, which comes with a not insignificant price tag of $18,000 Australian dollars. Now, it's worth pointing out that the price is identical to the non-motorized Slash with the same spec. So if it's any justification, you're effectively getting the motor and battery for free. Otherwise, we've got a RockShox Zeb Ultimate fork and a Vivid Ultimate shock. There's a SRAM EXO transmission, Maven Ultimate brakes, a Reverb Axis wireless dropper post, Bontrager Line Pro carbon wheels with an SE6 tyre on the front and an SE5 on the rear. Confirmed weight for our Trek Slash Plus test bike is 20.9 kilos, and as usual, that's without pedals and with the tyres set up tubeless. On the trail, and it was the suspension performance that immediately impressed. The rear end gobbles up everything in its path, devouring the chunkiest of rocks and the girthiest of roots. It might not have the highest pivot out there, but there's enough rearward movement for the wheel to get out of the way quickly. It's got a very plush and reactive feel, helping you to maintain momentum when slamming into sharper edges. Along with the carefully managed chain and the neutral anti-squat levels, the Slash Plus affords a smooth and relatively relaxed ride quality when the trail gets rowdy. Of course, the geometry puts you in a great stance on the descents, but it's the incredible suspension performance that elevates that stability to the next level. Even under heavy panic braking, it remains calm, allowing the rear end to generate gobs of traction. It does a lot to boost the confidence levels, to the point where I found myself ticking off several trail features, which I'd balked at over the past couple of years. Much praise can also be attributed to the excellent RockShox Zeb and Vivid, an awesome combo that delivers sensitivity and control by the bucket load. Both are intuitive to set up with simple but meaningful adjustments. Now, given this bike shares the same suspension design with the regular Slash, the outrageous traction and big hit capability weren't exactly a surprise. What did surprise me, however, was the fact that it doesn't need to be ridden at Mach 10 to get the most out of it. No doubt the mid-high pivot orientation plays a role here. Although the rear centre lengthens as the shock cycles through its travel, it isn't quite as dramatic as some other high pivot bikes out there, leading to less of that stuck down sensation. Combined with the mullet setup and the relatively lightweight battery, the Slash Plus is actually pretty responsive on flowier trails. It flies off jumps intuitively, and there's plenty of grip on offer from the aggressive Bontrager tyres, which have been newly updated with a softer rubber compound. And while the BB might look a bit high on paper, it does end up pretty low to the ground once suspension sag is taken into account. It gives the Slash Plus a planted feel when blasting into high-speed berms, and providing you lean it over and make use of the sticky tyres, it negotiates tight single track well. The TQ motor also contributes to the overall liveliness, adding a good amount of zip across undulating terrain. The assistance is smooth and subtle, so you never feel like you're a passenger, and it's also very quiet, making it easy to forget there's even a motor there. Now, although the TQ motor does well for its size, it does lack some punch on steeper tech climbs compared to the Fazua Ride 60 and the Bosch SX. It is noticeably less powerful, and that means you have to put in a decent amount of effort to maintain your speed when the trail kicks up. Now, personally speaking, I really like this motor. It's very natural feeling, and the compact form means that Trek didn't have to compromise when it came to the high pivot layout. The support is also sufficient that I can climb significantly faster compared to my enduro bike. Sure, the Slash Plus isn't as planted on steeper gradients compared to a full 29er like the Scott Voltage, but there's still plenty of rear wheel grip and stable pedaling performance for negotiating technical ascents. However, I say all of this as a relatively light and fit rider. Heavier folks will be more likely to take issue with the subtle assistance. On that note, I do think there's something to be said for matching a rider's weight with a motor's output, but perhaps that's a discussion for a separate video. Needless to say, if you're the kind of rider that wants to get to the top of the climb as quickly and with as little effort as possible, this motor isn't for you. The Trek Rail, with its full-powered Bosch CX motor, will be the better option. This does present a bit of a conundrum because at nearly 21 kilos, the Slash Plus is heavy for a bike that sits in the lightweight category. It certainly rides lighter than that figure suggests, which can be partly attributed to the lightweight TQ motor and battery. Still, it does require more muscling around when things get tight and twisty. On the sorts of modern machine-built flow trails that are popping up all around Australia, the shorter travel Fuel EXe is likely to be the better option. It's lighter, more responsive, and it's just that little bit easier to place on the trail. That being said, there are a lot of riders out there who have ended up up-forking and up-stroking their Fuel EXe, and it's perhaps those riders that the Slash Plus is going to appeal the most to. The suspension is significantly plusher, offering more grip and big hit composure. It comes out of the box ready to shred, and the fact that you can fit a coil shock and extend the fork to 190mm makes it all the more attractive for bike park use. On that note, I can confirm it is possible to ride the Slash Plus without the battery. After removing it from the down tube, you'll find a small threaded nut inside the motor skid plate, which can be used in place of the battery thread. I then zip-tied the main plug to stop it from bouncing around inside the down tube, and I replaced the wide-end derailleur battery with a regular axis battery. This dropped the bike weight down to almost 18 kilos, which made a significant difference to handling on fast and flowy trails. The TQ motor runs pretty much drag-free, so you could potentially ride it in this configuration with your friends on regular enduro bikes. Certainly for a weekend of shuttling or using the chairlift at the bike park, it's a great feature. The only other issue I encountered was a decent amount of chain slap. Although Trek's thick chainstay protector offers plenty of coverage, it is quite firm. I ended up wrapping it with an old rubber inner tube, which instantly reduced the noise. While this was cheap and easy for me to do, it'd be great to see a softer material used in the first place because it otherwise provides plenty of protection. I'll also note that there were no issues with chain derailment, which was a point of concern with the non-motorized Slash when it launched last year. Here, there's a new fully enclosed lower pulley and a redesigned lower chain guide that beefs up the protection. Everything ran snug and secure throughout testing, though as we've mentioned with other idler equipped bikes, keeping the chain clean and well lubricated is essential for staying on top of general drivetrain noise. Now, as for battery range, most of my rides aboard the Trek Slash Plus were with the TQ motor in the high assist setting. Distances varied from 44 to 55 kilometers with 1200 to 1500 meters of elevation gain. I also put it through our standardized range test where it achieved almost 2000 meters of climbing before the battery ran flat. Now, if you're keen to see how that compares to the competition, I put the results in the full review over at flowmountainbike.com. We've also compared the Slash Plus to the Merida E160, and you'll also find more information about sizing, suspension setup, and the performance of the components on our test bike. Just click the link in the video description below to see the full review. Wrapping things up, And it has to be said that the Trek Slash Plus sits in a slightly unusual space. It is heavy for a lightweight e-bike, with the TQ motor looking dainty compared to the Vizua Ride 60 and Bosch SX drive units. That makes it less appealing for the riders who want maximum power with all that travel. The thing about the TQ motor though is it's more than just numbers on paper. There's a lot to be said for its smooth and whisper quiet performance, and its compact form is what makes this brilliant suspension platform a possibility in the first place. That makes it ideal for riders who don't need a ton of power and who place suspension performance and handling above all else. It certainly isn't cheap, though given Trek sells an equivalent Slash for the same price with an identical spec, it's a bit of a no-brainer as to which to go for. Now, if you've got any questions for us about this bike, make sure you drop those into the comments below. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this video review, and we'll see you next time. Tooroo!